Ethan Marshall thought he'd built his whole life on order, on silence, on rules so strict that even the air in his mansion felt rehearsed. He was the kind of man people whispered about in boardrooms, sharp, untouchable, a billionaire who didn't flinch when deals went sour. But all that power couldn't fix the one thing that kept him awake at night. His little girl Lily, bound to a wheelchair, since a car accident stole her ability to walk. That night, when he came home early, briefcase still in hand, his shoes clicking across marble floors, he opened the door to her playroom and froze. There was Lily, laughing, cheeks glowing, while the new maid, a young woman named Mariah, twirled barefoot across the rug. For a moment, his blood boiled. Rules had been broken. Dignity at risk. This was his home, not some circus. His voice sliced the air. What the hell is going on here? Mariah nearly stumbled, the cheap music box still spinning its little ballerina, the melody tinkling in the background. She stammered, "I was just..." But the words died in her throat. Ethan's jaw tightened. Every instinct told him to fire her on the spot. But then it happened. Lily's foot twitched, her fingers curled. After years of stillness, her body responded. Ethan's anger faltered. He saw it with his own eyes, undeniable, a miracle cracking through the silence he'd carried for too long. Mariah hadn't planned on any of this. She had taken the job because rent was late again and the diner tips weren't enough. When she first stepped into that mansion clutching her old tote bag, she promised herself she'd follow every rule. No music, no chatter, no stepping into rooms she wasn't assigned, just wipe, fold, and disappear. That's what the other staff told her. He hates surprises. He hates noise. And she believed them. But then she saw Lily, 10 years old, porcelain skin eyes too quiet for a child. A girl trapped in a chair while the rest of the house spun on without her. Something inside Mariah softened. She'd once been a dancer, scholarship competitions, a whole future waiting until her mother got sick and she hung up her slippers to work double shifts. Now, in this palace of silence, she found herself tracing the shape of an old music box one afternoon. Against her better judgment, she wound it open. The tune filled the air, delicate, stubborn, like it had been waiting years to be heard. Lily's head lifted. For the first time, those wide eyes actually saw her. Mariah's chest tightened, and before she knew it, her body swayed. Just a step, then a turn. Not a performance, just muscle memory rising from the dust. She stopped when she heard two maids whispering in the hall. She's crazy. He'll fire her. But look at the kid. She's smiling. That smile, tiny, almost secret, lit something in Mariah she hadn't felt since she was 16, standing barefoot in a studio chasing dreams. Day after day, it became their ritual. Mariah finished chores early, slipped into the playroom, and wound the little box. Sometimes she twirled. Sometimes she guided Lily's arms through arcs, pretending they were dancing partners. Lily's giggles, quiet at first, then louder, spilled through the sterile mansion. Even the butler noticed, shaking his head but murmuring, "Maybe bold is what this house needs." For Mariah, it was dangerous. Every night in her tiny staff room, she whispered to herself, "Don't be stupid, girl. One wrong step, and you're out." Yet the next morning, when Lily sat by the window, eyes hopeful, Mariah couldn't resist. Then came the storm. Ethan walked in on them. His fury was like thunder. "Neglecting your duties. Turning my home into a stage show." Mariah opened her mouth, but Lily clutched her wrist, eyes brimming, silently begging. That's when Ethan saw it. Lily's foot moved again, this time, deliberate knuckles twitching. For a man who believed in control and contracts, it was the first time in years he lost his grip. He left the room without a word, but he didn't forget. That night, instead of shutting it down, he lingered at the doorway, hidden in shadow, watching. Lily's laughter rose and fell, Mariah spinning softly beside her. Something cracked open inside him. The staff whispered in the kitchen. Mr. Marshall hasn't yelled in days because he's watching her, the maid. For once, the gossip wasn't cruel. It carried awe. One evening, Lily lifted her arm on her own trembling but hers. Ethan lowered his papers, pressing a hand over his mouth, eyes stinging. This wasn't therapy bought with millions. This wasn't another failed specialist. This was courage and love blooming in a maid's stubborn heart. And then the truth came out. The butler slid a worn folder across Ethan's desk. Programs, newspaper clippings, photos. Mariah Carter, once a rising star in the city's ballet academy. A scholarship kid with fire in her bones until her mother's illness forced her to walk away. Ethan sat back, the weight pressing against his chest. He realized he hadn't hired a maid. He'd hired a healer who happened to carry a mop. The next evening, he stepped into the playroom, not as the master of the house, but as a father. He watched Lily lift her leg from the footrest, just inches, but victory all the same. Mariah steadied her eyes, shining. Ethan's voice cracked softer than anyone had ever heard from him. No more scrubbing floors. From now on, you're my daughter's teacher. The staff gasped. Whispers spread. The maid. No, the healer. Months passed. Music filled the house again. Not loud, but alive. Laughter echoed off the marble where once only silence lived. Lily grew stronger, her arms lifting higher, her smile wider. Ethan, the man who thought money could fix everything, found himself waiting every evening outside the playroom, hungry for the sound of his daughter's laughter. And then, one spring afternoon in the garden, the moment came. Braces on her legs, Mariah steadying her side. Lily stood. Just for a few seconds, but she stood. The crowd clapped, tears blurred every eye. But for Ethan, only one truth rang clear. Money hadn't saved his little girl. Love had. He pulled her into his arms, voice breaking as he whispered, "You brought her back." Now here's the part people still argue about. Ethan offered Mariah the world resources, a new career, a life far from laundry and scrubbing. But Mariah hesitated. She said quietly, "I'm not here for the money. I'm here for her, and maybe for myself too." Some say Ethan should have married her, that it was fate bringing two broken people together. Others argue boundaries matter, that gratitude isn't love. But one thing's undeniable. A billionaire who thought he'd seen it all was humbled by the one thing he could never buy, hope carried in the twirl of a maid's dance and the laughter of a little girl. So I'll leave you with this. What do you think? Was Ethan right to trust her, to let her break all his rules? Or was it reckless to let a maid rewrite the story that doctors and money couldn't fix? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Because sometimes the biggest battles aren't fought in boardrooms or courtrooms, but in the quiet corners of a playroom where a child learns to laugh again. And if this story moved you even a little, hit that subscribe button, share it with someone who believes small acts can change lives. Because maybe, just maybe, the greatest miracles don't come from wealth at all, but from courage, patience, and love.